Okay, so I'm in hospital, about to get open heart surgery. That sucks. It is scary, and though the risks are low, it could potentially kill me. Hopefully not, because doctors are really good at this stuff now. But I actually started getting short of breath for the first time right as the Sydney climate change marches were occurring. I would have gone if I could have, I really wanted to, but I was so short of breath. We found out why now. But yeah, I mean, just in case something does go wrong, and just to get this out there, I thought I'd talk about climate change one time and the huge climate marches that have gone on behind this young lady named Greta Thunberg. Okay, Greta Thunberg, come on guys. I mean, who hasn't heard of her? But yeah, her climate change strikes have created a worldwide movement, and they're still going. It's bloody inspiring stuff. But Greta, who has Asperger's, has been the target of most of the criticism for this. When you can't attack the message, you attack the messenger. But though I do think these marches are great, people also attack the protest because it doesn't do enough. And though I disagree, as I'll show in this clip, it's actually bloody amazing, I think the message and the messaging could be improved upon to create the most change. But I mean, the fact is, climate change is real. It is a huge threat. And today I'm going to talk about, one, how that idea that climate change, addressing it, requires huge economic impacts is actually not true. I looked at the numbers, and being green is actually cheaper than fossil fuels, and we need to talk more about that. Two, I'll talk about how scientists and people who understand the danger can actually spread our messages according to science, because there is a lot of science showing how we're doing it right now sucks. And three, I'm going to talk about how climate change affects our health. It is real. It's killing people and our ecosystems already. And I'll also talk about a few other things too. Now, the biggest thing to talk about, I feel, is this myth that's pervaded by protesters as well, that green energy is not cheap, that it costs the economy. But right now, government subsidies for dying industries that pollute is the only thing that's propping up fossil fuels. Australia spends $29 billion subsidizing coal every year. That's nearly $1,200 per person. The US spends 10 times more on oil and coal subsidies than it does on education. Without these, half the industry wouldn't be sustainable. Renewables, they generate 20% of Australia's energy, yet comprise only 10% of the subsidies that fossil fuels do. Hell, 82% of Aussie's subsidies for green energy is somehow given to coal companies as well. And we're at a point now where coal and oil is actually more expensive than renewable technology 74% of the time when setting up a new plant. That's according to Yale. Coal and oil, contrary to popular opinion, doesn't create and sustain more jobs than renewables. In the case of the Adani mine, which is like a famous coal mine in Australia, for that investment that we put in, renewables would have created 4.7 times more jobs. Adani mine not only will employ just 800 people, it threatens the jobs of people who rely on a $30 billion a year Great Barrier Reef tourism industry. This isn't just me cherry-picking the facts. Industry-wide, according to many studies and government bodies, renewables create similar or more jobs than fossil fuels. And another thing we're seeing great progress is also in green cars. Battery prices are going so low that pretty much every big manufacturer is investing in electric cars. It isn't like greenies that are causing this, that by increasing demand so much, soon, we're talking 5 years soon, green cars are going to be cheaper than current cars to make and run. The Chinese government has a fleet of electric buses that's bigger than any in the world. Green energy is cheaper. It's better. And this is what we need to talk about to the public too. What we should be fighting against is fossil fuel subsidies. They don't create more jobs, they don't produce more energy, and they're not cheaper. But though I think adding this message to science could help sway more people, I also think how we go about messaging climate change needs to change. I agree, right now politicians are a big problem. They aren't stepping up and backing wasteful, polluting tech, probably because these big industries have powerful lobbies and already established voter bases. These marches are definitely helping bring awareness to this issue. I mean, like I said, Greta is keeping this up globally. People are growing more passionate about this and getting avenues to take action. Some political parties are actually trying to capture the young vote through this, and that's great. But if we could marry that to showing people that green tech is cheaper and better, and showing them that we're paying right now to keep older, crappy tech and billionaires ideas afloat, rather than saying we need to swallow some sort of bitter pill, we might get more change. That could be more effective than trying to get people to declare a climate emergency, perhaps. I mean, we can try and advocate for both. This is what we need to show people. This is how we need to market this issue. And there are several ways that we can also improve that. This TED Talk, based on research on climate change communication, shows that things like doomsday prophecies aren't the best way to appeal to people. How we talk about science, avoiding things like error, theory, likely, or consensus, things that just, it doesn't stick with them, not because they're dumb. We're dumb if we don't talk about it in a way that people can understand. There's this other great TED Talk that I saw a few years ago, but I can't find, where this lady talks about how she convinced Republicans about the reality of global warming through semantics. Talking about energy freedom, something Americans love, rather than carbon prices or taxes, which everyone hates, makes a huge impact. Infographics and memes on this stuff could help too. If it could reach the top and trickle down to society, they could create change. The power of memes is amazing. But we also shouldn't be calling people on the other side idiots. Though green energy creates more jobs, coal miners are losing jobs, and that sucks. They're fighting to keep something. We've got to understand that. A big reason, and by attacking these people and calling them idiots, we look bad to everyone. A big reason why the left-leaning political party that supports climate change just lost our last Australian election was some thoughtless, tasteless protesting of coal mines by hippies who just took a holiday up the coast. I mean, if you go to someone's hometown, block the roads, tell people they're horrible people for killing the planet and supporting coal when they're just trying to feed their kids, who do you think is going to convince who? You rolling your eyes at people, or Adani, mine, who cleverly went to locals and convinced them that they'd be there for them, even though they're creating 1/6 of the jobs that they said they would. But yeah, even though I think these marches are going to have an impact, if we don't get this message across and start calling for energy freedom in a smarter way, we could just keep getting ignored. But yeah, another thing that concerned me is how people questioned Greta's mental health. Now, first off, bagging someone for having Asperger's or any form of autism for that matter, when many of the world's brightest people most likely had it, would really classy move people. But as Greta explains herself in this post, which I'll link in the description and in my blog, she actually started her activism against her parents' advice without their help, on her own. And to this day, she writes her own speeches and is compelled to do more on her own. Some people disbelieve her or criticize her because she writes like an adult. She's 16, not 6. I was writing decently eloquent essays and speeches at her age, as do many. She's won international essay competitions. She's passionate about a cause and wants to stand up for it. What's wrong with that? I guess people will criticize her for being young, but she spreads the words of scientists. The thing is, I think we're dumb if we don't spread those messages better. But yeah, this is an emergency, and this is real, and it's happening now. I mean, somehow I won this international essay competition and went to this agriculture conference a few years ago, and I met people there who were trying to combat the effects of global climate change right now. Like, there was a gentleman, one really amazing guy, who was teaching sub-Saharan African farmers how to pretty much plant their crops because climate change had affected them in ways they'd never seen in generations. Bangladeshi floods are decimating crops and displacing even more people that are already in conflicts. Climate change, it's already here. And overall, the health argument for climate change is huge and very compelling too. The WHO is predicting even worsening outcomes that are a result from climate change in the way of further spreading of diseases, more migrant crises, and even extreme heat killing people everywhere. Not to mention, millions, and this isn't an exaggeration, millions of people are already dying either directly or indirectly due to air pollution. I've seen the lungs of people who've lived in cities and those who've smoked a pack a day for decades in cadavers as a medical student. Often, they show pretty similar changes. The health argument for climate change is huge too. We should be using it. Now, some also criticize her and the strikes as time-wasting, symbolic gestures, saying that instead kids should be picking up trash or staying in school or learning about this and doing something in universities. I mean, I'd agree, working in this space can create huge change, but first off, why can't you do both? And secondly, activism and showing political will and firepower against many of these issues is probably one of the best ways that we can affect change. It's a systems issue. You need to actually change the system. As I explained earlier though, I do think it can be done better. But yeah, direct action, things like funding small tree planting and light bulb changing programs, is something our government spent $1.7 billion on, which is resulting in essentially projects that were gonna happen anyway getting subsidized. It created minimal environmental change while having us pay billions to help businesses upgrade stuff. Plus, getting people to change habits isn't easy. I mean, if you wanted a good way to do that, maybe getting people out onto streets and standing up for a cause is one of the most effective ways to do so. But the best example of why trying to convince people to start planting trees is less less effective, though it is effective, than people pressure is Australia's largest supermarkets. After a few years of trying to get people to change to these reusable green bags, they simply started charging users 15 cents per bag and made it so people who had to pretty much stare checkout chicks in the eye and shamefully say, "I want to kill the planet." And that change of making plastic bags 15 cents resulted in an 80% drop in plastic bag use. Companies respond to public pressure even more than government. Let's make them also take meaningful action. There are superannuation or retirement funds around the world that don't invest in environmentally unfriendly companies. Now, this isn't just, semantics. Lack of investment leads to lower value in a company, less money, and when polluting companies start showing less earnings, that results in less money for new ventures in the future because they're not making as much profits. But yeah, finally people claim that we aren't the problem, that we should be focusing on investing in India and China, the biggest polluters. I think this is a big copy pasta that you see by people off some post on Reddit, I'm sure. Well, first off, America is actually the second biggest polluter in the world. We in Australia, we're second per capita, yay! But though I agree, investing in clean energies there are likely to be very good ROI, return on income, in terms of ways to promote change, the same people who want to say this want to cut our aid budget, something which not only benefits nations we give to, but also our farmers. As I pointed out in that essay competition I won a few years ago, we generated literally 60 times what we invested in savings due to climate change for our farmers by working with researchers in developing nations. By investing in green tech, we also create more jobs and startups that can scale and progress as humanity in general by doing it. Anyways, that was my take on climate change on this episode of Medical Facts, where we seem to be commenting on less medical things day by day. I'm getting surgery, probably as you're reading this, and there's a chance I may not be here. It's a small chance, but there's a definite chance I'll be in a lot of pain. Don't worry, I'm okay with it and I'll be fine. But yeah, if you want to learn more about me, go to nikhilautar.com. I'm an ex-cancer patient, tumor vaccine researcher, medical student, and the founder of Australia's Student Startup of the Year. I hope I get to finish my book before surgery. You can check that out on nikhilautar.com. But yeah, I like to talk facts. Medical, but also other facts too. Soon, I'll be talking about vaping, cannabis, and the science behind that, and my thoughts on Big Pharma and the conspiracy. They do actually suck, but they also save lives. It's a tough one. My startup, we're also creating cool products that may help you get better sleep, and in the future, keep vulnerable people alive, and it also powers medical research through machine learning. Check this out. I'll add a link if you want to support that too. And yeah, guys, cheers. Wish me well, because I don't need luck. No, actually, wish me both, guys. I need it. Thanks.